this movie first came out, I recognized Alexander Ludwig right away and Abigail Breslin, and I thought, wow, this looks really interesting, honestly. But I never got around to seeing it in theaters. But recently I found the trailer again online and it re-piqued my interest, so I decided to watch it. And I'm gonna be honest, I was expecting an extremely average horror movie that fell flat on its scares and had a freaking typical plot and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't get that. I got an interesting thriller which actually took a unique approach to its plot.
A big thing that you have to consider going in this movie is that it isn't a horror movie. It's more of an action thriller. I point this out because this means the movie is less focused on its scares and horror factor than the actual plot. All things considered though, the movie had a lot of strengths and was only plagued by a couple things that bothered me. Enough chit chat though. Let's review this bad boy. One of the things that I was most impressed with about Final Girl was that some of the scenes were actually pretty creepy and made me pretty uncomfortable. The creepiest scenes of them all were the scenes of Jameson going to pick up all of his friends before taking Veronica out in the woods. Everything from the emptiness of the houses, the symmetry of the shots, and even the lighting of the shots just made my skin crawl. The worst of which was the scene of Nelson and his mom having dinner. Damn, those boys are creepy.
I think what really contributed to the creepy, intense mood for this movie was the lighting and how they utilized the lighting in the movie. Personally, what really drives home a horror movie for me, makes it go above and beyond, you know, crazy and amazing, is how it utilizes its lighting. A lot of horror movies actually fall flat because they don't utilize their lighting properly, they don't take the lighting design into enough of an account. This movie does that. It focuses a lot on its lighting design, which makes it very, very effective as a movie.
Instead of just creating darkness in the forest, this movie adds a cherry on top, with a great amount of shadows and fog throughout the chase scenes in the forest. These elements really make the environment feel like it belongs in a horror movie. That's why every time I bring a date out into the woods to murder her, I always bring floodlights to set the perfect mood. It's just not the same without them. Another aspect of the movie that I felt they handled really well was the hallucinogenic sequences that the murder pact experienced. Before Veronica met up with them at the diner, she mixed a hallucinogenic drug into a flask of alcohol that she brought with her. Try saying that 3 times fast. While they were sitting around a fire pit in the woods on couches before the boys chased her, she got all the Mr. Jameson, who's played by Alexander Ludwig, to drink the mixture, which would later cause him to trip major balls. The mixture makes you hallucinate your deepest, darkest fears.
What will this do to me?
You will come face to face with your greatest, deepest fears.
And the way the movie portrays their drug trips is very fluent and very effective. It's also kind of cool to just see what the deepest fears of murderous lunatics would actually be. This guy's was that he would lose his girlfriend to his best friend. This one was afraid of facing the girls he murdered. This one was afraid of, ninjas? And this one, most relatably, was afraid of furries. Let's be honest though, you can really never trust a furry. But I will admit, that's one sexy panda. Oh yeah. What's most effective about these sequences though, is that we get to flow into the hallucinations alongside the characters experiencing them, as if we were experiencing them ourselves. It's only after we have experienced the hallucination sequence for a bit that we're given flashes of reality again that tells us what is actually going on. One of these sequences was so convincing that I actually believed it was reality before they brought me out of the hallucination. Surprising me with a plot twist like that almost never happens. So I have to give credit where credit is due.
So far, this movie is 2 for 2. Because it did 2 things that a movie hasn't done for me in a long time. Which is, one, make me uncomfortable, and two, surprise me by making me think that a fake reality is actually reality. And I'm glad that it did, but does this movie have anything else to offer? Thankfully, it does.
Something about the movie's characters that I was actually surprised with was that I remembered who all the characters were after the movie, which was something I thought the movie would struggle with. They weren't just man number one, or that girl love interest, or Father John the pedophile. They were actually memorable enough. The characters in this movie do all have their own basic distinct personalities that separate them from each other. The main characters that you'll want to focus on while watching the movie are these: Veronica, who's our protagonist; William, who is her mentor; the four boys who Veronica is pursuing, which are Jameson, Shane, Nelson, and Danny, and Jenny, who is Shane's girlfriend. When I actually broke down all the characters in the movie, however, I found that while I could describe a lot about some characters, there were others that I knew very little about. I will say, though, that the characters that weren't given a lot of depth were smaller supporting characters, so it didn't drag the movie down much at all, really. Even though the characters were good enough for this movie specifically and fit the plot just fine, I'm not too sure how I feel about the acting and how each actor fit their characters. Let's just start with the positives, though. Wes Bently and Abigail Breslin, who played the two main characters, William and Veronica, had a very good chemistry throughout the movie, which made it believable that they had a 12-year bond between them.
I'm not afraid of anything.
Oh, really? That would make you not human. I think that you're...
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, look, you're human.
I was kind of annoyed how they felt the need to suggest a romance between main characters, William and Veronica. But the more I think about it, the more it actually does make sense.
Oh, I love television. But yeah, William was the only guy that she knew in her life for the whole 12 years of that training. So it does kind of make sense that she would attract some feelings for him. I know I definitely would have. Oh wait, no, that's not what...
Veronica herself was just a generally good protagonist in the movie as well. When we watch a movie, we need to have a solid protagonist to keep us immersed and engaged with what is going on. There's a lot about Veronica's character that the audience can relate to and root for. She's very strong-willed and is definitely motivated in her goals. She's extremely clever and sly, especially when she tricks the four boys into believing she's defenseless. And she's just very relatable as a young character struggling to be independent. You'll find yourself liking her occasional sass, too. And my god, is Abigail Breslin a hottie batati. She's so pretty that I almost have the will to live again. Almost. Enough tickling this movie's nipples, though. Let's take a look at what this movie didn't get right.
Well, first of all, a lot of the acting in the movie was overdone. This mainly centered around the four boys that were hunting Veronica in the woods, who were also the antagonists of the movie. They were trying to act crazy and psychopathic, typical, but they didn't come off as that, because they were just overdoing it. Instead, they came off as juvenile and mature at some parts throughout the movie, which completely kind of contradicted the fact that they were psychopaths and kind of made it disingenuine. I mean, I know I wasn't that happy the first time that I murdered a girl in the woods.
Another thing that was really awkward throughout the movie was Veronica's fight choreography. Would assume that this chick's been training for 12 years, right? So if that's the case, why is she still doing simple fighting moves with William in the beginning of the movie? Why does she look so uncomfortable when she's choking people out? And why does some of her punches and kicks look forced and awkward? You'd think after 12 years of training she would have this stuff down, right?
These boys know how to fight, and they know how to kill. They will be bigger than you. They will outnumber you.
Now don't get me wrong, I know that fight choreography doesn't look or feel the same when it's flawless or perfect, but you would kind of think that a trained assassin who's been doing this shit for 12 years would kind of be getting the gist of it so that their fighting would look near perfect. That's just what I would think. Well, apparently it's not the case in this movie. Now, if you excuse me, I need to do some tubby time.
My biggest problem with this movie is the fact that the group of boys Veronica is hunting aren't as intimidating as they're trying to be. Alexander Ludwig's character, Jameson, is the worst of them. I think there was only 2 points in this movie where I actually was intimidated by him. The truth or dare scene, and at the end where he fights Veronica. I'm not sure if it's just the fact that Alexander Ludwig was miscast, or was just misdirected in his performance. I get that they were trying to portray Jameson and his sidekicks as desensitized and nonchalant to murder, but they went too over the top with it. There's no point where Jameson really breaks from his playful and upbeat mood until the very end where his life is threatened. Due to his character not having much dynamics, I was never really able to be afraid of him. Some of Jameson's scenes should have been dedicated to him losing his temper. Hell, he didn't even get mad when he discovers his friend's dead bodies and things aren't going his way.
You are an interesting girl.
While the other 2 supporting characters, Shane and Nelson, were fine as supporting characters, Danny had very similar problems to Jameson. He was so giddy about killing Veronica that I actually found him hilarious. I'm not sure if he was intended to be a comic relief character in the movie, so it's definitely a problem that I found him to be one. Sure, there were some scenes where he was creepy and made me uncomfortable, but overall I wasn't intimidated by him because I was laughing at him.
Come on, you Babylonian whore!
So it's about that time. The final score! Yay! I know that I've ripped movies apart in the past for just being overall disappointments and not living up to standards, but I really wanted to give this movie a chance. While a lot of the acting was overdone and felt a little unnatural, and some of the fight choreography came off as, let's say, awkward and looked uncomfortable, Abigail Breslin and Wes Bently did have a lot of chemistry together in the movie. They were good protagonists, and the lighting was superb in the movie. I will say that the lighting was superb, and the plot was just unique and interesting overall. So I have to give this movie an honest review based on those facts. The final score for Final Girl is a 7 out of 10. Do you see what I did there? Because it was final score and Final Girl is 5. Oh, okay. You're not laughing. Okay, no, you're not laughing. That's cool. I'll try and think of something else. No, because, that was the only thing I had planned for this video, that was gonna be the end. That was the planned ending for the video, and, you didn't laugh, which is cool, you don't have to laugh, but it would be really nice if you did, because I'm sitting here, working my ass off, trying to write this script. I've been working on this script for 2 freaking days.